Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the workshop with David Whitwam, gardener extraordinaire and good friend. And he's going to show us how he puts together a wooden raised bed box. So David, what's the first thing you do when you get ready to construct a raised bed?
It's some pretty obvious stuff. I kind of set up my workspace just to make sure that I'm not going to really trip over stuff. Got all kind of my wood together, got all my tools together, and that's kind of the first steps. Just make sure I have everything before I really get going. We have our 4x4 posts. These are going to be the corner pieces.
Corner pieces.
Yep. And then we have we're using 2x10s to construct these beds. So these are 2x10 by 12s. Whatever cuts you want to get or boards you want to get to make the appropriate cuts for whatever size bed you want. So we're doing 3-foot by 12-foot beds, so 12-foot boards are perfect. 12-foot boards are also perfect for 4x8 beds because you can cut the 4-foot end off.
Yes, and you're done.
Be done with it.
Two 12-foot boards.
Two 12-foot boards will do a 4x8 bed.
Yeah.
So we're going to do 2 beds here, so we have 5 boards. We have 2 boards each for the long sides of the 12-foot beds, and then 1 12-foot board is going to give us our 3-foot pieces. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cut our 4x4 board, and we're going to cut the lengths of the 4x4 board into the same height as our 2x10s. So the reason I'm saying that is you might have chosen to use 2 2x6s or 2x12 or 2x8s, whatever the height of your bed is going to be is what you want to cut the lengths of your 4x4. So even though these are 2x10s, they are not exactly 10 inches. So these are about just over 9 1/4. And this does not have to be perfect. You don't want them too long, so if they're too short, that's fine. So we're going to cut them at 9 1/4. Normally, when you're doing a construction job and you are measuring out a length, you do not want to do what I'm about to do, and that is actually measure off all of your cuts at once. But because we're not making cabinets, it's totally fine for this. And actually, just with this particular setup, with this type of saw, it's actually really hard to make the first cut just because the boards are so wonky. So I'm actually going to measure out a few of these and cut this in half first, just so it's easier to work with. So we're going to go 9 1/4, and that's going to be what, 18 1/2, and then 27 3/4, and then what's next? 27 3/4, so that would be 36, 37, I think. Is that right? Yep, 37. And we're just gonna cut right there.
So right now, David, it looks like you're adjusting for some warble in the lumber.
Well, this one is worse, but I'm actually just, because it's such a long piece,
Yes.
just making sure everything's flat on the saw.
So you're just making sure it's flat on the saw, so when you take your cut, it's going to be as
We don't want this to be
perpendicular.
at an angle because
Right.
it's up. Now we're going to go ahead and cut our 2x10, the 3-foot pieces. So this is a rather large chop saw. If you have a smaller one, you're going to have to do the same thing, but I'm still going to have to actually flip the board on this one. We'll do some other cuts with a skill saw just to show you kind of the difference. They're both a little bit difficult. And you can just go with what tools you have available or what you're most comfortable working with. So I'll go ahead and measure off 3 feet. our last two cut skill saw. Kind of show you the differences. So also, these were 12-foot boards, but nothing ever comes in 12-foot. It always comes extra. The reason they do that is because, like I said, the blade is 1/8 of an inch. So if you bought a 12-foot board and it was exactly 12 feet and you tried to, you wouldn't be able to get four 3-foot cuts out of it, because that 1/8 of an inch adds up. So they always make them a little bit too long, and we're gonna have to account for that and actually measure our last cut and get it to be exactly 3 feet. So this bad boy is going to need our speed square. You don't have to use it on the saw because it actually just makes a straight cut. So I'm going to have to actually make the straight cut on this one. So we actually have to follow a line. Unless you are really wanting your beds to be the exact same size, the only thing we have to do now is make sure that the 12-foot boards are the same size in pairs and that the ends are square. So sometimes the end actually will be off a little bit square. There you go. So there's our pairs. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is just check the bow on the bed, and the bow is this way. So I usually will put that toward the inside of the bed because the dirt is going to push it out a little bit. Okay. Give me like flop. Look at that. Straight, but still put a little bit this way. No, which way that just fell, so I'm gonna have to check again. That's all right. I think you're right. Yep.
I agree 100%.
So we're just trying to roughly square these up. You got to stand them up. If you're working by yourself, you can use some of the boards for your other bed. Now this is super important. So the boards here actually has a curve to it. So you need to be aware of that, and we'll go over that in just a second. So this one was curved as well. And we're gonna make sure that the curve is going this way compared to the wood. I'll show you why. Put it this way, when you go to screw it in, first screw you put in, it's gonna push it way up. And when you push the next screw in, it's gonna pull that one out. So you don't want it rocking when you screw them in. Little staples out of here. Hello. So when we put a bed together, we always take the shorter piece and cap it on the longer piece. Okay, so that's our first two screws are going in here. The dirt, the majority of the pressure is going to be pushing out on the long boards. So if you put it like this, it has more of a likelihood to pull out. So like this, the force of the direction of the screw to the force of the pressure is going to hold it in a lot better. We're going to put some more screws in. That's what corner pieces are for, but our two main screws are actually holding the boards together directly to themselves, we want to be in the direction that can withstand the most pressure.
Is there any advantage to pre-drilling the hole?
Not on this. If it's thinner wood, sometimes, and you're that close to the edge, it'll split the board if you don't pre-drill. So here's the other time, Vampire, that people get caught up on is trying to line the whole thing up. You don't have to line the whole thing up. You can do that in a second. You just got to line up these
two boards.
Corner right there. I'm not even worried about what's going on down there. Okay, so I got that lined up. Get it in. Now I can worry about getting that lined up. Try and line stuff up before you get something. You're basically trying to hit a moving target. So we got that in. Now we're going to do the corner piece.
What's the purpose or advantage of adding the corner?
It's going to get more screws in the joint, and then hopefully your 4x4 pieces are somewhat 90s. That's the side that's the most 90 right there. So again, kind of figure out where it's going, and we're going to put one there, one there, one there, and one there. When you're first starting screws, it definitely goes in easier when you go slower. I see a lot of people who are new using drills or impact drivers to put stuff in. This is an impact driver, by the way, not a drill. You can do this with a drill. If you're only doing a few. If you have a lot of work to do putting in big screws, it's recommended to get an impact driver. Basically, the way this works and the reason why it's clicking is there's actually a hammer in there banging this into a circle. The benefit of that, especially on a cordless, is using a drill to put screws in. A lot of screws tears up your batteries. So I don't mean like your batteries will go dead quicker. They will do that, but they actually won't last longer. And out of all this right here, the most expensive part is the batteries. So if you got a lot of these to do, I would recommend spending the money and getting an impact driver. Way off. So sometimes you just pick it up a little bit. That looks like that's what needs to happen.
You need some kind of shim to hold it up?
You know, one thing about this is a lot of times I end up with shims just in doing this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of perfect. I'll get situated.
So David, I noticed that your position positioning these 4x4s in some way, what is the key factors that you're looking
These
at?
things are supposed to be square all the way around, and they're not always, so I'm just eyeballing it and trying to pick the most squared side.
And the most squared side would go in the
Into the
corners
corner.
to provide support for squareness.
Yes. That one's actually pretty good all the way around. Some of them have knots, you know, so you just want the best, most squared side into the corner, because that's actually what's providing the shape of your bed.
Right.
I'm also checking to see, so sometimes, yeah, sometimes it is important the order in which you put these screws in.
Right.
So I'll show you in just a second what I'm talking about. So I put this screw in right now,
Uh-huh.
okay? So let's say that this is off this way.
Yeah.
You see what I did?
Yeah. You
Okay, see how that's off this way?
Yeah.
So if I put this screw in next,
Then you're solidifying.
it's not gonna pull it in.
locking it.
So I would actually put this one in next
Right, to pull it in.
to pull it in. There it is.
Pull it in.
The more squared you can get this in your cuts, the longer these beds are gonna last.
Right.
Is there any advantage to building the beds taller or lower from not an accessibility standpoint, but from a crop standpoint?
So you got, not from an accessibility standpoint, no. That would be the only reason. And I'm sure you came up with that question just because what you were staring at. Because we're starting to make it look taller, right? And actually on the accessibility, right? A lot of people will get in here, build these higher up beds, because they're worried about bending down and doing stuff. I would say a lot of what we grow is either really tall plants or trellised up. So if you're dealing with a 6-foot tomato plant, now you got to figure out how to get up 8 feet to deal with the top of the plant. So you actually lose something. So you got to kind of weigh everything and figure out, you know, if you're keeping your bed properly weeded, you shouldn't really have to weed it that much. If you let it get out of control or don't mow the surrounding area, you might be weeding all the time. I get that. You don't want to bend down all the time and have to weed the bed. But they do make long hand tools for that. You can separate your crops, get them far enough away, put heavy mulch around your collard plants and have your collard plants far enough away that you can use a hoe. There are hand tools that you can use to get down there. I don't think it's a very good trade-off. I've worked in tall beds and, you know, trellising up and dealing with a cucumber plant, beans, tomatoes. There's just so much stuff that we grow that gets super tall. This bed, these are 2x10s. So they do make 2x12s. I do recommend, if you want a 2x12, 12-inch bed, to use two 2x6s. As you can see, just with the 2x10s, the amount of warping, the 2x12s, it's even more exaggerated. So if you're achieving that height by using two 2x6s to get that 2x12, and I think that's actually, so that's gonna come up to right about here. And that's kind of a good, you know, that's a good balance. I've also felt like, or worked with people that just needed a little bit more. So you can also frame the top of these out, you know, out here, like get 2x6s and frame it out like that. And that just gives a little bit of a wider place to put your butt cheeks. And it adds another 1.5 inches. So if this just seems like it's just a little bit too low, sometimes you can just frame it out with like a 2x4 or a 2x6. You know, nice, cut the wider the edges and make it look real pretty. And it looks pretty sweet too, So this is a good tip. I was just doing this and I was like, you know what, people might want to know this. So whether you're moving stuff around on your sawhorses or on your saw or moving around on the ground, when you have to make little movements with long boards, because there's a lot of friction, if I gotta push, by the time I get this thing to move, it's always too much. I gotta bring it back, it's always too much. So if you actually apply your pressure in the direction you want to move it and vibrate it at the same time, you can make much smaller changes on moving the board. And it's way easy. There's a problem, and then there's a 3-hour line to get fill up sand. You know, you could go to some beach or crap. All of our soil here is sand. So even if you had to temporarily dig a hole in your yard, we sell all of our bagged soil at whitwamorganics.com in sandbags. So that hopefully if my customers buy their soil bagged, that they will have something that they can reuse and not throw away. So
What was the website again?
What's that?
What was the website?
whitwamorganics.com.
Woo! Got it.